I'm Dr. Vinayak Nair Radhakrishnan. I'm a director of E5 Research Ayurveda company, which is based out of Vienna, Austria. Also, Ayurveda, along with Ayurveda, yoga is also picking up. I think yoga was brought to the Europe continent through exercises, for example. But now people are also understanding the deeper aspects of yoga. And if you see, there are a lot of yoga teachers and things like that who actually from Europe, people are coming to India to learn that, but they're also going back and bringing that culture to them. So from patient point of view, Europeans are much more easy to manage because they're very strict in terms of, if you tell them, they will do it. So and that way, even in practice, that is a wonderful thing because like in Ayurveda say, Bishak Dravyani Upasthata Rogi Pada Chatushtayam. That means there are 4 things required for a proper healing. One is the doctor, second thing is the medicine, third thing is the therapist who is working on it, and fourth thing is the patient itself. So there are some qualities mentioned for each people, and one of the qualities Bishak Pashyo. That means the patient listens to the doctor. And that is pretty different compared to people here and people there, that it makes it, they are much more listening to what is being done, and so the results are much more better in those terms. So I've been practicing in Austria for almost like 10 plus years now. After finishing my masters, I kind of got my opportunity to go to Austria, and I've been a practitioner there. So it was kind of I met a doctor who was practicing there, and he asked me if I can come and join him actually. So that was the first time I went to Austria, and saw that somehow the Ayurveda which was there was quite different than what is being practiced here. So it was kind of a trial to see if I can bring the real Ayurveda back there. So it was initially quite some challenging thing because it was new. It's a cultural difference. For example, even if you go to a hospital for rehabilitation, people eat meat and stuff like that. So even to bring a vegetarian food into a hospital was a challenge for me actually. So, but which I took as a thing which was interesting for me too. So last 10-12 years I've been building my practice, and luckily, fortunately, I've been working very closely with modern doctors, and that was just through patient contact relationship, but also through some kind of professional aspect where I met some doctors, let's say a neurologist who was seeing 200 patients with let's say burning sensation in the feet. So those people didn't have anything more to give, and they were looking for help from alternate system to provide them for some other alternative to help them practice better. And as you know, Ayurveda also integrate other aspects of lifestyle, food, and things like that. So my work is also to integrate both this health system together to see how we can bring those into a form which is beneficial for the patient, and not based on system but based on what is good for a patient. And that is basically my work there. So I also work in a modern hospital. Once a week, I have a consultation which I go there. And there we're also trying to do some research protocols actually. So how, for example, in rheumatic arthritis, how we can add aspects of Ayurveda into it so that, along with medicine, they can also, take care of other aspects of their life. So, but it requires a little bit of different kind of research protocol, which is different from the usual modern clinical trials and stuff like that. So it's a challenging aspect, but which I think will down the line, it will come to that point where we can do research based on Ayurvedic fundamental protocols actually. That's the work which I am also doing, and a lot of European doctors are open for that kind of work actually. And the environment is also ideal in some sense. I think from a challenge point of view in terms of Ayurveda, I think if you look at, for me personally, for example, when you are studying in the colleges, you have a lot to read because you're studying modern medicine. So it's more of, understanding the subject because it's so vast. And as you know, Ayurveda is just a small part from the Atharvaveda, and it is pretty complex. You can, as I said, you can take a leaf and study your whole life, still it is not finished. So in these 5.5 years, we are bombarded with quite some information, which we, kind of get it. We come out, we start practicing it, and we see a lot of things in patient. But eventually, for me personally also, it was bringing those principles and values into your own life, So, and that was the challenge because I think as you bring those principles, because as I said earlier, it was a Gurukul system. You would go to a Gurukul system where actually you would practice those things. You will get up at a Brahma Muhurta, you will get up, you will do yoga, you will do pranayama, you will eat in a certain way. So there was a regime into it, to the whole process, so that a person, from a normal person, just like when he goes to a National Defense Academy, becomes a soldier, here he goes to a Gurukul and becomes a Vaidya. Not a doctor, but a Vaidya, because these are bringing those principles into your life. So that when he goes to practice and when he sees somebody not eating healthy or not doing exercise, he has all rights to actually say that, hey, do exercise, because he has brought those principles into your life. And that's what, for example, in Ayurveda, the basic aspect of knowledge is said in 4 ways. For example, if I am telling you something, for example, if exercise is good for you or meditation is good for you, I know it is good for you because I have seen patients, I have done it myself, so I know it. But for you, it will be like information, so you have to, that's only 25% of knowledge. So what you should do, you should go back home and do your own research. Now, for example, there is enough research to help you understand why exercise is good for you, why meditation is good for you, why eating health is good for you. So a lot of people now know, okay, I need to do this and not to do that. And the last 10-25% comes with time. Sheshat Kalakramena. Nothing will happen overnight. So you have to give it time for these principles to work within your own boundary. So what happens is then the knowledge, which is intellectual, that means I understand that meditation is good for me, or I understand exercise is good for me, converts into an experiential form where you know it is good for you. So Ayurveda emphasizes on that aspect, that you convert that intellectual knowledge into experiential knowledge, so that I don't have to actually tell you that it is good for you, you know it is good for you. And that particular aspect is missing in the education aspect of Ayurveda, because now it's more of we are not practicing it, and that's why we lack doctors, because doctors should be the healthiest person in the society, right? And one of the other challenges is developing protocols which are based on Ayurvedic principle for research, because as I said, most of the clinical trials happen which have been developed for modern way of treatment. So Ayurveda is actually kind of working in those lines, and I see in the last, say 5 years or so, since the Ayush Ministry has taken a big step in these directions, I think they've worked on developing those new protocols where actually Ayurvedic principles can be implemented in the research protocol. So I think it's a good change now at present, but in the European countries, they have already set up some certain protocols and the environment for that, which makes it a bit more easier to kind of get the regulations done and get it started actually. So I think down the line, if Ayush Ministry opens up the doors for research in terms of making it a bit easier for doctors and practitioners to find an easier way to do research than, because if you do the modern way, it requires billions of dollars of money, and phases of trials and stuff like that, which is again only applicable to that kind of medicine actually. Let's say, for example, if you're giving paracetamol, if you give 100 milligram of paracetamol, you exactly know how much is absorbed in the body, how much liver metabolizes, and you can actually measure the amount of what comes in the bioavailability of the drug. But for example, and we know paracetamol has a specific action in the body. But let's say if you take ashwagandha or guduchi, any herb for that matter, it has thousands of phytochemicals. No research has been done to understand which particular phytochemical may be having an anti-inflammatory effect, what causes maybe the cardioprotective effect, because one single drug has been mentioned in Ayurveda do have multiple actions. Bahupkalpam bahudravyam. So one dravya can be made into different formulations and has multiple actions. Why? Because they have multiple phytochemicals acting in different places actually. And what modern has done is extraction of these molecules, which is somehow, I can give you example of one of the drugs called as reserpin. One of the initial blood pressure medicine was something called reserpin, which was extracted from something called as plant called sarpagandha. It's Rolfia serpentina. So usually in Ayurveda also, sarpagandha is given for reducing the blood pressure and things like that. But when you extract that reserpin from it, that was the first blood pressure medicine in the modern world.